Good morning. Welcome to this webcast on VB Migration Partner and more specifically on the Convert Test Fix Cycle feature of our migration tool. So let's talk a little about the migration process. When you migrate a VB6 application, typically you have a couple of milestones. First, you want to reach the point where the application has no compilation errors. Once you reach this point, you can compile the application under VB.NET and test it. So the next milestone is when you reach the zero runtime error stage. At that point, you can you can claim that your conversion is completed. So we have two main steps. And the Convert Test Fix Cycle is actually an iterative process that helps you reach each of those milestones. Whenever you want to reach the zero compilation error stage, you start converting. You first convert the VB6 application using VB Migration Partner. You check the result and see whether you have compilation errors. You understand the reason why the compilation error is actually produced, and you fix the original VB6 code to avoid this problem. But the key point here is that you don't touch the VB6 executable code. You just add pragmas. Pragmas are just special comments. They don't affect the way the VB6 application works, but they do affect the way VB Migration Partner deals with your code. So in general, you can continue to modify and evolve the VB6 application. For example, you want to extend that, you want to fix that, you want to add new features and so forth. But thanks to Pragmas and the Convert Test Fix Cycle, you always keep the VB.NET version in sync with the original one. And when you finally reach the first milestone and the application compiles correctly, you can run it, test it, and see any runtime errors. And once again, you fix those runtime errors by adding pragmas. In some cases, just pragmas are not enough. For example, in some cases, you have to replace unsupported controls with other controls, and you have to do that manually. But our suggestion is you should postpone this stage. You should postpone manual edits of the VB.NET code as long as possible, because once you start editing the VB.NET code inside the Visual Studio, the Convert Test Fix Cycle cannot be applied any longer. Okay, let's see a real example of this concept. We have here a very intriguing VB6 application. It's open source. Here is its URL, and you can actually find the URL on our website, more specifically on the code samples section. Let's run it quickly. Let's have a look at the project. Here we have 6 data reports. Then we have 30 forms and 3 modules. Let's run it. Splash screen. Login. And we can start using this program. As you see, there are several menus. Typically, you select the school year. You can browse all the students, look at more detailed information, edit this information, and what else? You can browse levels, and for each level we have sections, and whenever you want to edit a section, once again a dialog appears and you can edit each individual field. And more or less it works like that for all the forms that make up this application. All the forms are bound to the database, but they basically work in the same way. The second group of commands here on the toolbar are dialogues that actually create the printout of the information stored in the database. And we have seen that this printout has been created using they have been created using data reports. And finally, we have 3 more commands for just utilities: the calculator, notepad, and a small calendar. Okay, that's our application. And let's try it inside VB Migration Partner. You will see that this application is actually not trivial, because it contains about 4,000 lines of code for a total of 118,000 characters. So it's not large, but it's not overly simple either. VB Migration part then processes and converts of 35 markup solution, and in about 23 seconds on this computer, it has generated the VB.NET solution. Let's have a look at just the issues for now, migration issues. You will see that all these issues, or most of these issues, have been caused by references to data report objects, and data reports are not supported by VB Migration Partner, so we have to find a way to get rid of these references, at least temporarily. Other issues are caused by the mouse pointer property of the screen object. VB.NET doesn't support anything like the screen.mousePointer property, so we simulate this property in our support library, but the simulation is not exactly perfect, and that's why it is reported as an issue. Then let's have a look at the warnings. Most of the warnings here are related to the fact that there are some object values, and VB Migration Partner signals that it is enabled to read the default member of a given symbol. In this case, we see that it's a string. Most of these cases are just strings, but VB Migration Partner delivers this warning nevertheless. And of course, we can work around that, because we just need a pragma, as you see in a moment. So all these warnings are related to default members, and we want to get rid of them. Let's have a look at the information. Information, most of these information warnings are related to, you see, by ref parameters that are neither a sign or change in any way inside the method. So in practice, this by ref has been added just because VB Migration Partner wants to deliver code that is equivalent to VB6, but the point is that by ref was not necessary in VB6, and VB Migration Partner has marked that as a possible programming error. Okay, let's go back to the VB6 code. Remember, we have to solve the problem with the data reports. We already know that if we load that solution inside the Visual Studio, we are going to have compilation errors. Oh, let's try that just to show you how it works. So this is the solution inside Visual Studio, and the error list shows that all the compilation errors are related to references to these data reports. We can solve these references and avoid these compilation errors in several ways. For example, we might add some dummy variables, like here. In a module, I go in I open up a module and I define a variable which is called data report 1 or data report 2 and 3 and so forth, and you see we are solving these compilation errors. Of course, it doesn't mean that the application now works, because any reference to those variables will cause a runtime exception, because the object is not a real data report, it's just a dummy variable that is only useful to solve, to make the compiler happy, so to speak. We can follow this approach, but actually we can do better. In fact, VB Migration Partner supports a Pragma you see a post-process Pragma. It takes a regular expression. In practice, this is a global search and replace function. We are looking for this regular expression, which means any line that contains a reference to data report 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 6, and we want to replace this line with the same line, but it is preceded by a comment that reads unsupported. In other words, after the solution has been completely converted to VB.NET, this regular expression will be applied, and all the statements that contain a reference to the data report will be commented out. And we have here another Pragma, default member support. Remember, we had a lot of warnings related to default members. So we just add this new Pragma here, and all those warnings will be resolved, because we are in practice, we are telling VB Migration Partner, please manually solve, add the code that solves all the references to default members. Okay, we can now save these. We reload the project inside VB Migration Partner, and we can restart the compilation, the conversion to VB.NET. Expect where warning and migration issues. As a matter of fact, here we have, let me see, here, warnings. We have no warnings at all right now, because all the warnings were related to default members, and they are gone. Let's have a look at the issues with the data reports. They are still reported as issues, but you will see in a moment that the actual statements have been commented out. Okay, let's load these in Visual Studio so that we can test that we have no compilation errors, and we can actually run the application. Here we go. You see 0 compilation errors. As a matter of fact, we can run the application. As soon as we run the application, we'll bump into a runtime error. And the runtime error is quite clear. The application cannot find a MDB file that contains all the information about the students. As a matter of fact, if we go to the folder that contains the VB6 application, you will see that this application relies on an MDB file, and it also relies on a subdirectory that contains all the settings related to forms. In these files, the application stores information about the last position of forms and so forth. Okay, so we know that we have to copy these files to the VB.NET folder. We can do that manually right now by just copy and paste inside the Windows Explorer, but we can do better if we go back once again to the VB6 application and we add a couple of pragmas. These two pragmas are add data files, and they copy both the folder and the master file MDB. And while we are at it, we want to disable code analysis messages so that we are not distracted by messages coming from by ref parameters that should be declared as by valets and so forth. We don't care about them right now, so we just disable messages. We save these once again, go back to Migration Studio, reload the application, and migrate it again. Now I expect that I will find very few migration info, because we pressed analysis message.
As a matter of fact, we have no information right now. No warning, no to do. You have just issues. We can load in Visual Studio. We already know that we have no compilation errors. We should have solved the problem, runtime error that we saw before. So once again, we run. So we see the splash screen. So we solved that error. Admin, okay, and here we go. The application is running as it does VB6. Student information, we can edit it. We have options here. We can see sections. There we go. We have sections. We can edit sections, add the new sections. Update. There we go. We have a new test section. We can delete it. We have these print option dialogues. Of course, they are not going to work because we have commented out those statements. As a matter of fact, we can go here and look what happened. Look at what happened. Data report 1. This is an example of what happened to statements that contained references to data report designers. They have been commented out, and we just need here to look for all these comments so that we can later fix those problems. For now, we don't have printing, but we reach the point when the application can be tested, it can be demoed even. Let's close it. Actually, this application has a few problems. Let me show you what happens if I close this form and then I load that form again. Look at what happens now. We have a runtime error, and the runtime is a null reference exception. What's happening here? Let's try to understand the problem, what the problem is. So S record set should point to a record set, but it's now nothing. This is a parameter which has been received by this method, and we know for sure that it worked before because we displayed the same form execution flow passed through this method, and S record set was not nothing. It is nothing now. Let's try to understand what has happened actually. Let's see who is calling this. And rs stud is actually nothing. Rs stud is a variable. We can go to the definition, and here is the definition: public rs stud as a new record set. And this is a suspect statement. Why? You probably know that as new variables have a different behavior in DB6 and VB.NET. In DB6, these variables are called auto-instancing variables, and they have this interesting property. If you set them to nothing, and you later reference them again, the object is automatically recreated. And this is probably what is happening right now. And this is the source for this mistake, this runtime error. rs stud was set to nothing when the form was closed. So let's find all the references for this variable. And in this list, you will see that at one point there is one statement that says here we go, rs stud equals nothing. In the form unload event, rs stud was set to nothing, and what happened is that the first time it worked in VB.NET, the second time it was nothing and caused that the error that we saw. Now we have this int at the possible cause of error. Let's close Visual Studio. Let's go back to VB6. We go to the module where the variable is declared, and actually there are all other variables that are declared with as new.